There's a lot to talk about in this video, so I'm just going to jump right in. The reason I made it is to give people a bit of a different perspective on why the cull was carried out the way that it was carried out in Edgewood on November the 6th at Universal Ostrich Farms. A bit of a historical overview of the farm. You can see in these next few Google Earth images that the farm really hasn't shown a lot of infrastructure improvements over its history. These started in 2005, and the most recent one is 2023. As you can see, the structures haven't been improved. To the contrary, they've actually deteriorated. It appears that things haven't been cleaned up as they did deteriorate. There are shelters still laying in place from, I believe, 2022, when they had big snowstorms and did some fundraising to replace some of their structures, which clearly they didn't do. With the infrastructure being what it is, there were limited options available to the CFIA for carrying out the cull. There are a few wooden structure buildings. They're not sufficient to actually run any kind of operations through. CFIA made an operational decision to create effective alternative fencing. Straw bales were an ideal material. They are cheap, readily available, easy to work with, and the fence could be erected quickly. Disposal of the bales was never a concern. As you'll see near the end of the video, they've been turned into a very effective mulch to cover the land that needs to lie fallow for a specified period of time. We know from what we've seen over the past 10 months that when stressed, the birds often ran into the existing fences and caused themselves injury. So clearly that wasn't going to be an option for the cull. The Super Save panels were also critical to the whole operation. The shade cloth covering them helped keep the ostriches from being able to see through them.
They are the big square bales.
Now, it's a popular theory amongst supporters that the square bales were chosen to hide the operations because they could be stacked high and nobody could see through them. The reality was that the ostriches couldn't see through them, and they provided a great amount of shock absorption ability if the ostriches did happen to run into them, so that they wouldn't be harmed the way they would have running into the wire fences or the metal panels.
They have brought them in to obscure the view from the road. If you're coming down the road, you will not be able to see what's happening behind the hay bales. And they brought them in for truck swerves.
As you can see here, the covering on the wire or on the Super Save panels wasn't a blackout cloth, it was shade cloth. Again, simply to keep the ostriches from having a clear view through it. None of this was done to intentionally hide anything from public view, but it sure did make a good narrative for the farm to...
They did. They created a pen and hunted them while they're running back and forth.
Yeah,
There's fear.
so
There's nothing humane about that.
So in your estimation, there were 2 shooters or 3 or 5?
There's minimum 5.
Minimum.
The presumption is that the cull, when it does happen, will happen behind the bales, out of the view of the public.
Did they do it all in the night?
Yeah.
The decision to do this at night.
When I saw what happened, having such experience in the industry, I knew that there was no way it was humane. It was done at night under floodlight, and those animals would have been running around.
I'm not sure where Drea found that guy, or what he's actually an expert in, but anybody that's ever had anything to do with poultry knows that birds are much quieter and easier to handle at night. They tend to go and bed down, and you can see in this image that they're all bedded down, heads up, eyes open, because that's the way ostriches sleep. Yeah, they're diurnal, they're active and alert during the day, running around, and if they had conducted the cull during the day, the birds would indeed have been running around and running into those bale walls in a panic. But at night, their instinct is to freeze, not to flee. Again, you can see them up in the corner there. They're all bedded down. Floodlights, all the floodlights do is kind of the same as with hunters when they go pit lamping, deer in the headlights kind of thing. If it's light, the birds are moving around. If it's dark with a spotlight on them, they freeze. So this was far more humane done in the dark. This is another farm, an ostrich farm. Well, not an ostrich farm, but a farm where they have a couple of ostriches down in Texas. And this is just to show you what the ostriches do typically at night. It's not just the ones in Edgewood.
Doing
This
in the
is
dark
the way
complicates
ostriches
everything,
behave at
makes
night.
it more dangerous, makes it more likely to miss a bird and injure it rather than kill it, makes it more likely, more dangerous. There's literally no medical or public health reason to do it in the dark other than to hide.
What kind of firearms did they use? AR-15s?
No, they're M1s. They sound like M1s.
Yeah. Okay, that's a
Absolutely.
big gun.
And that's an automatic or a semi-automatic. You
Yeah,
can pull
so
it
it's
or change it
prohibited.
over.
But we can't say for sure either. It's in that same
Until we
class.
get out
No
there
matter
and
what,
look for some
it
cases.
was so inhumane. It is the
Yeah.
worst.
What was
thing
that?
you could do.
So let me ask you a firearms question because I'm not an expert. You think you heard rifle shots as opposed to shotgun shots?
Well, some were a little bit louder, but I can't see them.
Like a
I mean,
pop,
you and
pop,
me,
pop.
we wouldn't use a 30-06 at 20 yards.
No, those were absolutely.
It had to be maybe 12 gauge, but that's too loud.
No, that wasn't. That was not a shotgun.
Most of them were M1s. I'm saying.
Yeah,
And
the
then
first assault
that's
rifles.
a rifle.
No, it's one of those assault rifles.
It's an assault rifle.
So-
They are.
And you're saying that the only humane way to put down an ostrich is with a shotgun?
Yeah, to the head. Yeah.
There's a reason.
Peace.
You can see the ostriches actually ran. Remember, they were all towards the kill pen. They ran the complete opposite way to the edge of the pen. They clearly know something isn't right, and you can see the CFIA coming after them, coming towards them. Now remember, ostriches are fast runners. They can run super fast. I have no confidence that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency has even really thought this through very well.
Holy jumping. Holy.
Pretty bird! Where's the pretty bird? Pretty bird!
Let's go.
Come, pretty bird!
Well,
CFIA, you can stop!
I can hear the music.
Stop! Stop killing
I see people on the
them!
hill.
Run, pretty bird!
This line of cars stretches around the corner.
Pretty bird! Pretty bird! Pretty bird! Run!
Peace.
Come, pretty bird! Come,
Let's go.
pretty bird!
Let's
Pretty
go.
They're 35 years old, CFIA! 35 years old! Probably older than you are! 35 years old, Canadian Food Inspection Agency! They're healthy animals! You have to go to bed at night and know you killed healthy animals! 35 years
go.
old!
Let's go.
This was all pretty disturbing to watch. I'm not going to play any of the audio for you from this. The words that were coming out of this guy's mouth were truly disgusting. This is supposed to be a God-fearing man that preaches love and respect. He wasn't showing it this day. It was really bad. I have to admit, I found this the most disturbing part of the whole day. And I did watch the live streams right up until midnight. Just a trigger warning, coming up at the end of this video, There is a very short clip of a comparison between the sound of 22 shots compared to the shots that were being fired by the CFIA the night of the cull, because there is some speculation that perhaps they were using 22s, which it's really disturbing to watch these birds be stressed to this level when you know that it's not necessary. The only reason they're being stressed is because the owners and the supporters are on the highway making ridiculous amounts of noise intentionally to stress the birds. These birds that they claim to love so much and are trying to save. One point that keeps being raised is why weren't the birds just loaded up and hauled somewhere else to be disposed of in another location? Well, the reality is that ostriches don't transport well. It's highly stressful for them, and there are, again, no facilities on the farm to load them, so they would have to construct special facilities. And once they got them loaded, the birds would suffer a great deal of stress in the move, only to end up being euthanized at the other end anyway. I just want to say here that this is supposed to be, from the farmer's perspective, about not stressing the birds. But look at, does it look like they're not stressed? And this is because they're standing on the road, shouting, playing loud music, honking horns, doing everything they can to possibly upset the birds. And yet they claim to love these birds and to be doing this all in their best interest. I find that very disturbing. There were even people up on the road setting off fireworks. So the last thing I want to touch on is another one of these farm fabrications that seems to have come up after the fact. So the morning after, the live streamers got up and they all went out and they did their morning after videos. They talked about what a hard night it was and how the gunshots went on for hours and hours and hours before they finally ended. They talked about how stressed they all were and how quiet it was in the morning. What none of them mentioned was any gunshots happening the next morning. That wasn't mentioned until much later in the day. And oddly enough, even with all of those live streamers there, not a single one of them managed to capture those morning after shots on video. Seems pretty odd to me. And then the next morning when Drea Humphrey and Ezra Levant were in the kitchen, they talked about that a bit. So I'll let you listen to Dacey's live streams.
That's getting better. Up high, yeah, that's getting better, yeah. Yeah, let's rock and roll, CFI. Can you hear me over there? You CFI. Is that the right name for these guys?
Okay.
Yeah, that's getting better. Up high, yeah, that's getting better, yeah. Yeah, let's rock and roll, CFI. Can you hear me over there? You CFI. Is that the right name for these guys?
Everybody's enjoying this. Hey? Hey, pretty birds. Pretty birds, pretty birds.
There were hours of unnecessary suffering inflicted upon these birds by the people that claimed to be there protecting them. That's not love.
Hey, pretty birds. Pretty birds, pretty birds.
The very same calls Katie used to mock and torment those poor birds in their last hours.
And the birds are getting frantic.
Pretty birds, pretty birds!
They're hurting them.
Pretty birds, pretty birds! Sergeant Bill Cole. Come on. Come on, Spunky. Come on. Run, pretty birds.
So there were birds that were injured
Yeah.
and were likely twitching in pain.
Yeah.
And because they did it at night, that would likely have not been easily visible at night.
Oh, where was the vet? Where was the vet going over everybody to make sure that they were
Because they
dead?
did it at night, they couldn't see if they killed the animals, so they were in agony for 15 hours.
The gunshots were ringing out late into the night last night. Hundreds and hundreds of gunshots. They stopped quite late. I did a post. I forget what time that last post I did was, but I mean, it was probably pushing close to midnight. There was still sporadic gunfire. Some RCMP leadership that supervised the horror here last night. My goodness. Yeah, it's definitely not a good morning. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting hundreds and hundreds of gunshots to ring out in the night over and over again. The entrance to the farm is now open. I don't know if that's a positive note, I guess. We can get our people back in and out. But hey, JC here. The sun has risen, the gunshots have stopped, and the birds are dead. Behind me, it's quiet. Rebel got a drone up and was able to get some footage. Tarps, dead bodies. Last night, gunshots were ringing out late into the night last night. Hundreds and hundreds of gunshots. They stopped quite late. I did a post. I forget what time that last post I did was, but I mean, it was probably pushing close to midnight. There was still sporadic gunfire. Hundreds and hundreds of gunshots to ring out in the night over and over again. It didn't take long. Didn't take too long. The gunshots rung out. Screaming was heard all over the place. People were falling to their knees, hysterical. You can see behind me. The birds are dead. The property's destroyed.
Doing it at night. So what time did it start?
4:20
a.m.
Just
4:20
PM.
Yeah.
It just started getting dark.
Yeah.
Then they had 10 or 20 big double, triple eights around the outside into the pens, and they were up there as a shooting gallery.
The only reason to do it in the dark is to hide it from public transparency.
Absolutely.
Again, this is what punishment looks like from an agency that is cruel and despicable. Empty fields that once housed 35-year-old animals with names, personalities, and every opportunity to help the world. With a destroyed field, destroyed fields, roads, and mud, and all of the kill pen hay blown up. Look at that. Just exploded all over our field. And you want to know what the most ignorant part? Even more, if it could get even more ignorant. All the bales that are whole, they went around and cut every binder twine and string on. So you cannot even pick them up with a forklift. Now everybody knows what happens with wet hay, I'm sure. Wet hay also combusts. And that hay that is supposedly so contaminated is sitting there with wildlife and birds going in and out of it. They have left a complete mess. They have not picked up, cleaned up, done any kind of biohazardous security clean. And again, this is Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Canadian Animal Cruelty Agency hard at work. This is what's been left behind. So just another stark reminder of the aftermath of the war that we're in. So again, there's a war being waged on our farms right now.
Now, I'm not sure if Katie's playing dumb here or if she actually doesn't know. The reason that the CFIA left all the hay there and went around and cut all the strings is that the hay is intended to form a protective layer of mulch to protect the ground that was contaminated from being disturbed during the mandatory fallow period. I've heard, or I read in the CFIA reports, that that could be as long as 210 days or possibly even longer. And a warning, here's the gunshot comparison. First from the night of the cull, then 222 shots, and then more from the night of the cull.
So that was a short. This is the long.